hope I'm showing up okay. There is so much sun streaming in right now, you can probably tell from this really sunny patch on the floor, but I think that should make for good lighting. We will see when I try to edit this, won't we? I am here with another book haul. I keep looking down because there's this massive stack of books in front of me, but since I did my last book haul, I've just managed to acquire quite a few more books. A couple were sent to me, some were gifts, and the rest were books I bought myself. But these things happen. I have enjoyed the experience of buying every single one of these books, and I regret none of them, and it also means I have a book haul for you now. So without further ado, let's have a look at them, shall we? So the first one on the top of my pile is Persuasion by Jane Austen. This is the Vintage Classics edition. And I own Northanger Abbey, Emma and Mansfield Park in these editions, as well as some of their other series in these lovely editions, which are a little bit shorter than a regular paperback and all have these beautiful prints on the outside as well as a different book's print on the inside. This is Mansfield Park's cover on the inside, and I just adore these editions, and I haven't read Persuasion yet, but it's the one I have been drawn to read next, so I thought I would pick myself up the matching edition and give it a shot. If you're not familiar, this Jane Austen novel follows our protagonist who, as a young woman, rejected a proposal from a man she was in love with because of pressure from her family that he didn't possess a high enough status, and it's now many years later and she comes back in contact with this man who is now quite high up in the army, and it's about kind of regrets and all of those different things. Next up is actually a non-fiction work, and it is a collection of essays by Italo Calvino called Why Read the Classics. The title of this one's pretty explanatory. Each essay takes a different classic or author of classics and discusses the importance of reading them and what they can add to your life and help you understand about literature and history. I'd imagine, I haven't read them, but all of those wonderful things, and Italo Calvino is a phenomenal writer, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of insight in here. And it does start all the way back in antiquity with Greek and Roman literature and then goes right through the decades all the way into authors such as Leo Tolstoy, Robert Louis Stevenson, Hemingway, throughout all of those, and I'm really excited to read this one. I then picked up two books by the same author who is actually a favourite of mine, and that is John Wyndham, and Penguin recently released two more of his books in the same editions I have been collecting the rest of his works in, and those are Stowaway to Mars, which, wait for it, is about an astronaut travelling to Mars when he finds out there is a female stowaway on his ship. Ah, surprise, surprise. John Wyndham writes very classic science fiction of the 1950s and 60s, and I really like the way he writes, so I'm looking forward to that one, as well as The Secret People. And this one's about a water project that stumbles across this cavernous underground world which hosts the last of an ancient race who have managed to survive but are now under threat. And again, sounds super interesting. I then picked up a copy of a childhood favourite of mine that I haven't read in many, many years and never actually owned as a child, just used to take it out of the library over and over again, and that is The Snow Spider by Jenny Nemo. I liked quite a few of Jenny Nemo's books as a child, but I never owned a copy of this one and saw it in the bookshop and thought, oh, reading a childhood favourite that I haven't read in well over a decade would be such a wonderful thing to do right now that I decided I would pick it up. And this one's about a little boy who actually has a sister who has gone missing, and it's about these 5 magical gifts his grandmother leaves him. It's set in Wales, and I just adored this one as a child, so I'm hoping I love it as much as an adult. Next up I have a few Penguin classics, all of a similar vein, all collections of short stories. The first one is fairy tales, and this is The Turnip Princess and Other Newly Discovered Fairy Tales. I have first heard about this one on Jen Campbell's channel, and it is what the title implies, a collection of fairy tales that were only uncovered quite recently. So I thought I would like to check this one out, and I read the first two and they were particularly wacky actually. It's been a while since I've read a collection of fairy tales, so I'm really excited to do that again because I always enjoyed that in the past when I used to read Grimm's Brothers and Italian folk tales and a few others, so it's going to be nice to have some new ones to try. Quite different though, I then have a collection of ghost stories by Ray Russell which is called Haunted Castles, the complete gothic stories. This one was clearly in a 3 for 2. I recently hauled a novella by Ray Russell which I read. I didn't enjoy the ending as much as I was enjoying it at the beginning, but I did really enjoy his writing style, and I think I would really enjoy it in shorter stories, even if I was a little bit disappointed because it seemed to go down the shocking route rather than the clever route. But I do still have faith that I will like some of his stuff, so I thought I'd try the short stories. I then picked up this, which I hadn't seen before, but it was on a table display in Waterstones, and it's Scottish Folk and Fairy Tales from Burns to Buchan, and this is again what the title implies really. It includes authors like Rabbie Burns, John Buchan, Robert Louis Stevenson, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and many more. Naturally the Rabbie Burns in here is Tam O'Shanter, one of my favourites actually, so I'm excited to try this whole collection out together, maybe discover some new kind of classic Scottish authors. Next up is another non-fiction book, and it is On Writing by Stephen King, a memoir of the craft. Apparently this is part autobiography of Stephen King and partly a guide for writers, and I was really intrigued to read this one after I filmed a book break video a few months ago with a couple of the publishers from Mantle, an imprint at Pan Macmillan, and in fact the head publisher of Mantle said that any aspiring writer should read this book, and just raved about it so much that I thought, I need to read this. If somebody so high up in their field thinks it is that worthy of reading, that everybody should check it out. And I finally got my hands on a copy. I've never actually read anything by Stephen King before, so this will be my first experience of his writing. The video itself was on how to get published, so if you're interested in that I will of course link it above and down below. Next up I have one of my most anticipated releases of the year, and that is House of Names by Colm Tóibín. I was going to hold off on picking this one up until it was in paperback, until I saw Simon over at Savage Reads do a review of it recently and thought, nope, I need this immediately, I need to read it as soon as possible, it sounds amazing. And this one is a retelling of the Greek myth of Agamemnon, Clytemnestra, Electra, Orestes, all of those characters. Agamemnon being the general that led the Trojan War, and he actually sacrificed his and Clytemnestra's daughter Iphigenia to the gods, and obviously that has a lot of repercussions within his family. A lot happens in this myth, and a lot of it's about family relationships and revenge. And I'm really intrigued to see what Colm Tóibín does with it. I haven't actually read anything by Colm Tóibín before, but I adored the film Brooklyn, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about his work, so I do want to check out more in the future if I like this one, which I'm sure I will. I then have an illustrated children's book, and that is The Fire Horse, children's poems by Mayakovsky, Mandelstam and Karms. Those are all three different Russian poets from around the time of the Russian Revolution and the Soviet Union, throughout those kind of eras. And Blackwell's had a display of Russian literature because it's the 100th year anniversary of the Russian Revolution, and I saw this, it's beautifully illustrated, and I thought, I'm going to pick that up. If you'd like to see the inside, each one is illustrated in a different style. This is the first one, then we have the second one, and lastly the third one. Lastly, I have two books that were sent to me. The first one was sent to me by Canongate, and it is The Grey Bar Hotel by Curtis Dawkins, and I didn't ask for this was just sent to me unsolicited, but it did sound really interesting, so I thought, yeah, I'm going to keep that one. And this one is a debut short story collection that follows life in prison and for prisoners. I think male prisoners particularly, from the kind of list of stories it gives on the back there, but I think that just sounds like a really fascinating topic, and I've never read a short story collection like it, nor do I think I've ever read any modern fiction about people in prison, so I think it will be a really interesting book to read. I've read non-fiction on the modern prison system, so it'll be interesting to compare those two. And last but certainly not least is a book I have read many times before, but I was sent a new edition of, and that is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This is one of the new house editions that have been released for the 20th anniversary of Harry Potter, and this of course is my house, Hufflepuff. It also has decorated edges there, and this was sent to me by the people over at Independent Bookshop Week, who are collaborating with the Bloomsbury this year because of the anniversary of Harry Potter, and they also sent me a £10 book voucher which I used towards some of these books, and that was very kind of them. I'm a big fan of what Books Are My Bag and Independent Bookshop Week do, celebrating physical bookstores and indies, so I would check them out if you haven't already. I'll of course link their stuff down below. But they were kind enough to send me this edition of Harry Potter, which I'm incredibly grateful for, and I've heard that it has a little bit of extra material in it, just kind of details about the houses. It has an introduction to Hufflepuff, making Hufflepuffs proud, more information on Helga Hufflepuff, the house's founder, more information about the house relic, the house livery, the house ghost, the Fat Friar you may be familiar with. So I think it's lovely that they have included some little extras in there, not just repackaged the same book. and I'm definitely going to be reading those little extra details. Those are all of the books I have to show you though, no mean amount at all, and I can't wait to get to each and every one of them. If you have any thoughts on the books I've mentioned in this whole video, I would love to hear from you as always. And until next time guys, happy reading, and I'll see you all again soon. Bye!